Alright, for lesson 3, we are looking at simulation. So a simulation is an experiment that is designed to model the action in a given situation. So simulations often use models to act out an event that would be impractical to perform. So we just did a lab where we did different examples of simulations. Now we're going to just go through a couple scenarios and come up with our own simulations to represent them. So number 1. A cereal company marks 1/5 of its box lids with stars. If a customer gets a star, they get a prize. Design a simulation to represent 15 random winners. So a couple things we're looking at here. We're looking at 1 out of 5 box lids, and we're selecting 15 random winners. So we need to think about both of those things with making our simulation. So since we're marking 1 out of 5 box lids, we just need to come up with some sort of simulation that gives the probability 1 out of 5. So for me, first thing I think of is spinners. Those are easy, right? So simulation 1 could be to have a spinner with 5 different colors on it. And then this second part, where we're selecting 15 random winners, what I need to include then is that I'm going to spin it 15 times. Alright, simulation 2. So we're just saying, okay, here's one way that we could simulate it. What's another way that we could simulate it? Well, let's think. Maybe we could use a deck of cards. So we could have 5 cards because we need 5 different ones. Let's number them 1 through 5, right? And then pick one at random. $15 times, right? We need to include that 15. So there's tons of different scenarios that could work. These are just 2 examples. Or simulations that could work. These are just 2 examples for that scenario. Alright, scenario 2. 1/4 of a deer population has a certain disease. Design a simulation to represent how many deer would have the disease of the 20 that a scientist is randomly testing. So, simulation 1. Maybe we can use a standard deck of cards. And let's say with hearts representing the disease. So the 3 other suits, the deer are normal, but if it's a heart that you pull, that represents the disease. And then same thing, pick one at random 20 times. So, because there's 4 suits in the deck, we've picked one of those because we're saying that 1 out of 4, 1/4, has the disease. So hearts is 1/4 of a standard deck. Pick at random 20 times to represent the 20 deer that are being tested. Another way that we could simulate this same thing, so we need 4 different outcomes. If we flip 2 coins, there's 4 different outcomes, right? There's heads and then heads, heads and then tails, tails and then heads, tails and then tails. So that's 4 different outcomes with that. So we could let heads and heads pair represent the disease. And then same thing, flip the coins 20 times to represent the 20 deer. So if it's any other combo, if you get heads, tails, or tails, tails, that would represent that they did not have the disease. But if you get heads, heads, that's representing that that deer gets the disease. In scenario 3, if you want to simulate selecting 10 random people from a large population that is 40% adult and 60% children. So we just needed to have some sort of scenario where 40% of the options are adults, 60% are children. So we could use a bag with 4 red tiles and 6 blue, or any color for that matter, tiles. So the 4 red are the adults, the 6 blue represent the children. Pick one at random. Ten times to represent 10 random people. Another scenario where we're doing 40% one way, 60% the other way. Again, we could use a spinner. That's an easy one to do. With 10 equal sections. 4 of them, let's say yellow. 6 of them, let's say green. So the 4 yellow represents the adults, 6 green represents the children. Spin it 10 times to represent the 10 random people from the population. So there's tons of different ways that we could simulate these. These are just examples. So one thing to keep in mind when you're coming up with your own simulations, different ways that we can simulate probability. So cards are a good thing to use. Spinners are good to use. Coins. Dice. We didn't do any dice examples. Colored tiles. Drawing from a hat. I'm not thinking of other examples right now, but there's plenty of others. So you're just coming up with your own scenarios as long as you're representing the probability for that. So go ahead and work on the homework.